The massive station floated in the darkness between stars like a silver flower. Harmony Point was bigger than most moons, and ships from 100 different worlds docked at its countless ports every day. Today was special, though. Today was council. Ambassador Taemin stepped off his ship and looked around with sharp eyes. He had never seen so many different aliens in one place before. Some walked on two legs like his people did. Others slithered on the ground or floated in bubbles of water. A few were so strange that he could not even guess how they moved. The Kaleri had only joined the Galactic Council 6 months ago. Taemin was still learning the rules and customs of this huge community of star-traveling races. His people were proud of their technology. They could make their ships and weapons phase through solid matter. Most attacks just passed right through them like they were ghosts. He walked through the wide corridors toward the main meeting hall. Other ambassadors nodded at him politely. Some had been doing this job for hundreds of years. The Kaleri were newcomers here, and everyone knew it. The meeting hall was enormous. Thousands of seats rose up in circles around a central speaking area. Each race had their own section with the right kind of air, gravity, and temperature. Taemin found his assigned spot and sat down. An old voice spoke from the center of the hall. The council session will now begin. Today we welcome 3 new member species and review standard protocols. Taemin looked down at the speaker. It was an ancient creature called Yuna. She belonged to a race called the Vorthic Collective. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Yuna had skin like gray leather and 4 arms. Her voice was soft, but somehow reached every corner of the huge room without any speakers. New members of our community, Yuna continued, you must learn our most important rules. These rules keep peace between all our worlds. Break them, and you will face consequences. She paused and looked directly at the sections where the newest members sat. Her large black eyes seemed to stare right into Taemin's soul. The first rule is simple. Never attack trading ships or exploration vessels unless they fire on you first. The second rule is to respect the borders of neutral zones. The third rule is to report any dangerous discoveries to the Council immediately. Taemin listened carefully. These rules seemed reasonable. His people could follow them easily. But there is one more rule, Yuna said. Her voice became quieter, more serious. This rule is different from all the others. This rule has no exceptions, ever. The entire hall became silent. Taemin could hear his own breathing. Never interfere with Earth fleet operations. Not their cargo ships, not their exploration vessels, not their military ships, not for any reason. Do not attack them. Do not board them. Do not even scan them too closely without permission. Taemin felt confused. Earth, he had heard of that. World before, the humans came from there. They were a relatively young race. They had only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years. Why would such new people get special protection? Another ambassador raised a tentacle to ask a question. Elder Yuna, why do the humans get this special treatment? Our races have been in space for thousands of years longer than them. Yuna turned her ancient gaze toward the questioner. Because they earned it. 23 years ago, the Zelthari Empire made the mistake of capturing a human exploration ship. They wanted to study human technology and biology. She pressed a button and images appeared in the air above the speaking area. Taemin saw pictures of huge battles in space. Ships exploded in bright flashes. Entire fleets fought among the stars. The humans came for their people, Yuna continued. Not with 1 ship or 10 ships or even 100 ships. They came with everything they had. The war lasted 18 months. When it ended, the Zelthari Empire no longer existed. The images changed. Now they showed empty space where planets used to be. Broken stations floating like dead metal bones. Ships turned into scrap and debris. The humans did not want to conquer Zelthari worlds. They did not want their resources or their technology. They only wanted their 12 crew members back. But the Zelthari refused to return them. They kept asking for more time to study the Humans. Yuna's voice became even quieter. So the humans took them back by force. They destroyed every Zelthari military base, every shipyard, every weapons factory. They turned the most powerful empire in this sector into refugees begging for help. Taemin stared at the images. He had trouble believing what he saw. 12 people. The humans had started a war that destroyed an entire empire for just 12 people. The humans offered peace many times during that war, Yuna said. All the Zelthari had to do was return the prisoners unharmed. But pride made them refuse. They thought their superior numbers and older technology would protect them. She pressed another button. The images changed again. Now they showed human ships. They looked smaller than most other races' vessels. Their design was simple and basic compared to the elegant curves of Kaleri ships or the crystal formations that other species preferred. Human technology is not the most advanced in the galaxy, Yuna admitted. Their ships are not the fastest or the strongest. But humans have something that makes them more dangerous than any other race we have ever encountered. What is that? Asked the same ambassador who had spoken before. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. They never leave anyone behind. Ever. They will fight impossible battles and pay any price to bring their people home. And they are very, very good at fighting. More images appeared. These showed human soldiers in their strange armor moving through alien cities. They did not kill civilians or destroy homes. They searched with careful precision for their captured crew members. The humans have a saying, Yuna continued. No man left behind. It means that they will risk everything to save even one of their own people. This makes them predictable in some ways. If you capture a human, their fleet will come for them. But it also makes them incredibly dangerous. Timon thought about his own people. Would the Kaleri government risk their entire civilization to save 12 explorers? He was not sure. It seemed like a waste of resources and lives. Since the Zelthari War ended, no race has been foolish enough to interfere with human operations, Yuna said. The humans ask for very little from this council. They trade fairly. They follow most of our rules. They share their medical knowledge freely. All they want in return is for us to leave their ships alone. She looked around the hall one more time. This is not a request. This is not a suggestion. This is the price of peace with humanity. Any race that harms a human will face the consequences. The council will not protect you. We will not negotiate on your behalf. You will stand alone against their entire fleet. The session continued with other topics, but Taemin barely listened. His mind kept returning to the images of destroyed Zelthari worlds. How could such a young race be so dangerous? His people's phased technology could protect them from most weapons. Human ships looked simple and basic. As the meeting ended and ambassadors began leaving, Taemin made a decision. He would recommend to his government that they study these humans more closely. There had to be a weakness in their defenses. Every race had limits. The Kaleri were not afraid of anyone, especially not some young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. If the humans were really as dangerous as Yuna claimed, then someone needed to find out why. And if they could be defeated, then the Kaleri would be the ones to do it. Tae-Min walked back to his ship with his mind full of plans. He did not notice Yuna watching him from across the docking bay. The ancient diplomat shook her head sadly. She had seen that look before in other young ambassadors' eyes. Some lessons, she knew, could only be learned the hard way. 3 months had passed since the council meeting, and Captain Binwu was getting bored. His ship, the Silent Current, had been patrolling the edge of Kaleri space for weeks without finding anything interesting. The research vessel was fast and well armed, but there was nothing to research out here in the empty darkness. His crew was getting restless, too. Lieutenant Have-1 kept asking when they could return to the core worlds. The science teams complained that they had nothing to study except old asteroid fragments and cosmic dust. Even the ship's cook was grumbling about running low on fresh supplies. Binwu sat in his captain's chair and stared at the star charts on his main screen. The Silent Current was equipped with the newest phase drive technology. They could slip through normal space like ghosts, invisible to most sensors. Their weapons could phase through shields and armor to strike directly at a ship's vital systems. The Kaleri were proud of this technology. It made them feel superior to other races who still used old-fashioned energy shields and solid projectile weapons. Binwu had never lost a battle or failed a mission in his 12 years as a captain. "Sir," called out the sensor operator from his station, "I'm detecting a small ship at the edge of our scanner range. It's in the Helix Nebula." Binwu perked up with interest. The Helix Nebula was technically neutral space, but it bordered both Kaleri and human territories. "What kind of ship?" "Unknown design. It's about the size of a light cruiser. The hull configuration doesn't match any Kaleri vessels in our database. Run it through the Galactic Ship Registry." Binwu ordered. A few minutes later, the sensor operator looked up with surprise. "Sir, it's registered as a human exploration vessel. The U's Resilience. According to the database, it has a crew of 12 and is conducting mineral surveys." Binwu felt his pulse quicken. Humans. He had never seen a human ship before, only heard stories and warnings. This was a perfect opportunity to learn more about these supposedly dangerous creatures. "Set course for the nebula," he commanded. "But keep us in phase mode. I want to observe them without being detected." Lieutenant Haywon turned around in her seat. "Sir, are you sure that's wise?" The Council warnings about human ships were very clear. The Council warnings were based on fear and old stories, Binwu replied. "Look at the facts. It's one small ship with 12 crew members. We have 43 trained soldiers and the most advanced technology in the galaxy. What could they possibly do to us?" The silent current slipped through space like a shadow. Their phase drive technology made them completely invisible to normal sensors. Within 2 hours, they reached the edge of the Helix Nebula and found the human ship. Binwu studied it carefully through his viewscreen. The U's Resilience was smaller than he had expected. Its hull was a dull gray color with no decorative elements. The design looked simple and practical, not like the elegant curves of Kaleri vessels or the crystal formations that other races preferred. "It looks primitive," commented the weapons officer. "Those hull plates appear to be basic metal alloy. No energy shielding that I can detect." "Their engines are running at low power," added the sensor operator. "They're using some kind of scanning beam to analyze the asteroids around them, probably looking for valuable minerals." Binwu watched the human ship work. It moved slowly and carefully through the asteroid field, taking detailed scans of each rock formation. The crew seemed completely unaware that they were being watched. "Sir," said Haywon quietly, "perhaps we should just observe them from a distance and file a report. We don't need to make contact." "That would be a waste of this opportunity," Binwu replied. "When will we ever get another chance to study humans this closely? Think of what the High Command would say if we returned with actual intelligence about their ships and technology." He had been thinking about this moment for months. Ever since the council meeting, Binwu had wondered if the stories about human dangerousness were exaggerated. They were a young race with simple technology. How could they really be as fearsome as Elder Yuna claimed? "Prepare the phase cannons," he ordered. "Target their engines and weapon systems. I want them disabled, but not destroyed." "Sir," Haywon protested, "this is exactly what the council warned us not to do." "The council is full of old cowards who are afraid of their own shadows," Binwu snapped. "We're not going to hurt the humans. We'll capture them, study their ship and technology, maybe ask them a few questions, then let them go. No harm done." The weapons officer looked uncertain. "Captain, the High Command never authorized hostile action against human vessels." "The High Command authorized me to gather intelligence about potential threats to Kaleri security," Binwu replied. "These humans could be spying on our territory. We have every right to investigate." He was stretching the truth, and everyone knew it, but Binwu was the captain, and Kaleri military discipline was strict. His crew would follow orders even if they disagreed. "Bring us out of phase mode and lock weapons," he commanded. "Open a communication channel." The silent current suddenly appeared on the human ship's sensors like a ghost materializing from nothing. Binwoo could see the surprise on the bridge of the Resilience through his view screen. Human vessel, this is Captain Binwoo of the Kaleri research ship Silent Current. You are trespassing in a restricted area. Prepare to be boarded for inspection. Hey! Woman's voice came back over the communication channel. Her tone was calm and steady. This is Commander Sujin Park of the U's Resilience. We are conducting legal mineral surveys in neutral space under Galactic Council regulations. We are not trespassing. Your presence here threatens Kaleri security. Interest, Binwoo lead. You will surrender immediately or we will disable your ship. There was a pause. Then Commander Sujin spoke again. Captain Binwoo, I strongly advise you to reconsider this course of action. Contact your superiors and ask them about Galactic Council Protocol 7 regarding human vessels. I don't take orders from humans, Binwoo replied. You have 30 seconds to surrender. Very well, came the response. But Captain, when this is over, please remember that I tried to warn you. Something in her tone made Binwoo hesitate for a moment. There was no fear in her voice, only sadness. But he pushed the feeling aside. She was probably just trying to bluff him. Fire, he ordered. The phase cannons charged up and fired invisible beams of energy. The weapons passed through the Resilience's hull like it was made of air, then materialized inside the ship to strike the engines and weapon systems directly. It was a perfect shot. The human ship went dark and began drifting helplessly. Excellent work, Binwoo said with satisfaction. Prepare a boarding party. I want the humans brought to our holding cells for questioning. The capture went smoothly. The human crew offered no resistance when Kaleri soldiers boarded their ship. They seemed calm and cooperative, almost like they had expected this to happen. Within an hour, all 12 humans were secured in the Silent Current's detention area. Binwoo went to the holding cells to see his prisoners. The humans sat quietly in their cells, not talking or trying to escape. Their leader, Commander Sujin, looked up at him when he approached. Are you satisfied, Captain? She asked quietly. I'm curious, Binwoo admitted. I want to know what makes your people so special that the entire galaxy is afraid of you. Sujin studied his face for a long moment. How long have you been in space, Captain? 12 years. I've never lost a battle or failed a mission. And how many wars has your people fought? Bin thought about it. 2, maybe 3 small conflicts with neighboring systems. Nothing major. Sujin nodded slowly. My people have been fighting wars for our entire history. Not just in space, but on our homeworld for thousands of years. We've learned some hard lessons about what happens when someone threatens our family. Is that supposed to scare me? Binwoo asked. No, she replied sadly. It's supposed to make you understand what you've done. You didn't just capture 12 explorers, Captain. You took 12 people away from their families, their friends, their loved ones back home. So, Sujin looked directly into his eyes. So now those families will want us back. And they'll send people to get us. And those people will be very, very good at their job. Binwoo laughed. 12 people against my entire ship? Against the Kaleri fleet? You humans really think highly of yourselves. You still don't understand, Sujin said quietly. It won't be 12 people coming for us. It will be thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. And they won't stop until they bring us home. That's impossible. No government would risk a war over 12 ordinary citizens. Sujin smiled sadly. Captain, you clearly don't know much about human history. We once fought a 10-year war because one of our cities was attacked. We've invaded entire continents to rescue a handful of hostages, 12 crew members. For us, that's more than enough reason to mobilize everything we have. Binwoo felt a chill run down his spine, but he pushed it away. She was trying to frighten him with wild stories. No race could be that protective of individual members. We'll see, he said and walked away, but as he returned to the bridge, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. The look in Commander Sujin's eyes hadn't been anger or fear. It had been pity, and that worried him more than any threat could have. Deep inside the human ship UES Resilience, something activated the moment the Kaleri weapon struck. Hidden in the engine core, smaller than a child's fist, was a device that no alien technology could detect or block. It was called a quantum beacon, and every human ship carried one. The beacon did not send radio signals or energy bursts that could be intercepted. Instead, it used quantum entanglement to communicate instantly across any distance. The moment the Resilience was attacked, information traveled faster than light to receivers throughout human space. The signal was simple but terrifying in its implications. Use Resilience, crew status, captured, hostile action, confirmed. Species, Kaleri, location, Helix Nebula, time, 1432 standard, on Luna base. Orbiting Earth's moon. Admiral Kyung-ho Moon was reviewing supply reports when his personal communicator started flashing red. He had been Supreme Commander of Earth's Deep Space Fleet for 15 years, and he had only seen that red light 3 times before. He pressed the emergency button and read the message that appeared on his screen. For a moment, he sat perfectly still. Then he stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over the shipyards. Hundreds of human ships floated in the construction bays below. Some were cargo vessels built for trading with alien worlds. Others were exploration ships designed to map new star systems. And some were warships, sleek and deadly, waiting for orders. Admiral Moon activated his communicator. This is Admiral Moon to all department heads. Code 7 activation. Repeat Code 7 activation. All personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Within minutes, his office filled with senior officers. Captain Hyan-Soo from Intelligence, Admiral Ji-hoon from Fleet Operations, General Subin from Marine Command. They all knew what Code 7 meant. Someone had attacked a human crew. Status report, Admiral Moon said simply. Captain Hyan-Soo consulted his tablet. The Use Resilience, Captain-class exploration vessel, was attacked and captured in the Helix Nebula at 1432 today. 12 crew members under the command of Sujin Park. The attackers are identified as Kaleri. Kaleri, repeated Admiral Ji-hoon. That's the species that joined the Galactic Council 6 months ago. They have some kind of phase technology that lets them slip through solid matter. Casualties? Asked General Subin. None reported so far. The quantum beacon indicates the crew was captured alive. Admiral Moon nodded. Good, that gives us time to do this properly. Ji-hoon, I want every available ship ready for immediate departure. Start with Battle Group 7. They're already assembled and ready. Then add Battle Groups 3, 5, and 12. Sir, that's almost 300 ships, Admiral Ji-hoon said carefully, for 12 crew members. Admiral Moon turned to look at him. His expression was calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. Captain Park has 2 children at home. Engineer. Minho just got married last month. Medical Officer Dayoung sends half her pay to support her elderly parents. They're not just 12 crew members, Admiral. They're 12 human beings with families who love them. He walked back to his desk and pressed several buttons. On the main screen, star charts appeared showing the location of every human fleet in the galaxy. Send the recall signal to all deep patrol units. I want them converging on the Helix Nebula within 18 hours. Contact Admiral So Young on the Vengeance. She command the operation. Sir, Captain Hyan-Soo spoke up, shouldn't we try diplomacy first? Contact the Kaleri government, demand the release of our people? We will, Admiral Moon replied, but we'll do it from a position of strength. The Kaleri need to understand that taking our people was a mistake, a very expensive mistake. General Subin pulled up information about Kaleri military capabilities on her tablet. Intelligence reports they have approximately 800 ships in their fleet. Their phase technology is impressive, but most of their vessels are lightly armed research ships and cargo haulers. What about their home worlds? Admiral Moon asked. 7 inhabited planets, about 40 space stations, maybe 200 mining operations scattered across their territory. Total population around 12 billion. Admiral Moon was quiet for a moment. 12 billion people because some captain decided to capture 12 of ours. I hope for their sake that their government is smarter than their military. Orders went out across human space. Ships that had been patrolling distant star systems suddenly changed course and headed for the Helix Nebula. Supply depots began loading weapons and ammunition onto cargo vessels. Marine units received deployment orders. On the bridge of the UES Vengeance, Admiral So Young Kim received her orders and smiled grimly. She was known throughout the fleet as someone who got results. Her ship was the newest and most powerful in the human navy, equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Navigation, plot a course for the Helix Nebula, maximum speed. She ordered. Communications, send a message to all ships in battle groups 7, 3, 5, and 12. Tell them we're going to bring our people home. Meanwhile, desperate messages began flooding the Galactic Council. Elder Yuna was the first to hear about the Kaleri attack on the human ship. She immediately tried to contact the Kaleri High Command. This is Elder Yuna of the Vorthic Collective to the Kaleri government. You must release the human prisoners immediately. Apologize for the attack. Offer compensation. You still have time to prevent a disaster. The response from the Kaleri capital world was cold and dismissive. This is Foreign Minister Teho. The Kaleri Collective does not negotiate under threats. Our ship acted within its authority to investigate suspicious activity near our borders. Yuna felt her blood run cold. Minister Teho, you don't understand what you're dealing with. The humans are not bluffing. They will come for their people. Let them come, Teho replied arrogantly. One small exploration ship means nothing. The Kaleri fleet is strong enough to handle any human response. Other council members tried to intervene. Ambassador Kwansu from the Kaleri Federation sent urgent warnings. Diplomat Minyoung from the Crystal Alliance offered to mediate. Even the warlike Vithan clan sent messages urging the Kaleri to reconsider, but the Kaleri government refused to listen. They had spent months studying reports about human technology and military capabilities. Humans were a young race with relatively simple ships. Their weapons were basic energy cannons and missile systems. Nothing that Kaleri phase shields couldn't handle. What they didn't understand was that human strength came not from superior technology, but from something much more dangerous: absolute determination. On distant Earth, news of the attack spread. Quickly, families of the captured crew gathered at Fleet Command, demanding answers. Sujin's husband brought their 2 children. Minho's new wife sat in the waiting room, clutching their wedding photo. Dayoung's parents traveled from the outer colonies, their faces etched with worry. Admiral Moon met with them personally. I promise you, he told them, we will bring them home. All of them, safe and sound. Sujin's 8-year-old daughter looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. Will mommy be okay? The Admiral knelt down to her level. Your mommy is the bravest person I know, and we're sending the best people in the galaxy to get her back. They won't stop until she's home with you. Back in the Helix Nebula, Captain? Binwu was beginning to realize his mistake. His communications officer had intercepted dozens of messages between various alien governments. All of them were trying to contact the Kaleri High Command. All of them were using words like disaster and catastrophe. Sir, the communications officer reported, I'm detecting unusual quantum signatures throughout human space. It looks like their ships are moving. How many ships? I can't get an exact count, sir. The signatures are too widespread. But it's a lot, maybe hundreds. Lieutenant Haywon turned pale. Captain, perhaps we should contact the High Command. Ask for instructions. Binwu's pride wouldn't let him admit he might have made an error. We're doing scientific research on captured specimens. There's nothing wrong with that. But privately he was starting to worry. The quantum signatures were getting stronger. Ships were definitely moving through human space, and they were all heading in the same direction. Toward him, Dot in her cell. Commander Sujin sat quietly and waited. She could hear the worry in the Kaleri voices outside her cell. They were starting to understand what they had done. She thought about her children back on Earth, about her husband who would be getting the notification right now. About Admiral Moon, who she had served under for 5 years. About the thousands of men and women in the human fleet who would drop everything to come rescue 12 strangers. That was what made humans different from other races. They didn't see crew members as numbers or resources. They saw them as family, and humans never abandoned family. The Kaleri would learn that lesson soon enough. They would learn it the hard way. 6 hours after the attack, the first human ships began arriving at the edge of the Helix Nebula. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. Captain Bin-Wu detected them on his sensors and felt his stomach drop. 12 ships, then 24, then 50, then more than he could count. They weren't coming to negotiate. The human fleet arrived at the Helix Nebula like a storm of steel and fury. 300 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. At their head was the UES Vengeance, Admiral So-Young Kim's flagship, bristling with weapons that could shatter moons. Captain Bin-Wu stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. The numbers kept climbing as more ships appeared. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, support vessels. The humans had brought an entire war fleet to rescue 12 people. "Sir," his sensor operator said with a shaking voice, "I count 297 vessels." "No, wait, 302. More are still arriving." "That's impossible," Bin-Wu whispered. "No one mobilizes that many ships for such a small incident." Lieutenant Haewon looked at the tactical display with growing horror. "Captain, we need to contact the High Command immediately, request reinforcements." "And tell them what?" "That I captured some humans and now their entire fleet is here?" Bin-Wu's pride still wouldn't let him admit his mistake, but fear was creeping into his voice. The communication system crackled to life. A calm female voice spoke in perfect Kaleri language. "This is Admiral So-Young Kim of the United Earth Fleet to the Kaleri vessel Silent Current. You are holding 12 members of our crew. Return them immediately and surrender for questioning. You have 30 minutes to comply." Bin-Wu felt sweat beading on his forehead. 30 minutes. How could they give him such a short deadline? "Open a channel," he ordered. "This is Captain Bin-Wu of the Kaleri research vessel Silent Current. We are conducting legitimate scientific research under Galactic Council regulations. Your threats are unwarranted." There was a pause. Then Admiral So-Young's voice came back. "Colder than the space between stars. Captain Bin-Wu, you attacked and captured a peaceful exploration vessel in neutral space. That is an act of piracy under galactic law. Return our people now, or we will take them back by force." "You cannot threaten the Kaleri Collective," Bin-Wu replied, his voice rising. "We have rights under the Galactic Council Charter." "You lost those rights when you fired on our ship," came the immediate response. 29 minutes remaining. The channel closed. Bin-Wu looked around his bridge at the frightened faces of his crew. For the first time since this began, he started to doubt himself. Maybe he should contact the High Command. Maybe he should ask for instructions, but before he could make that decision, his tactical officer spoke up. "Sir, the human ships are spreading out. They're forming some kind of search pattern?" On the main screen, Bin-Wu watched the human fleet divide into smaller groups. Each group moved to a different part of the nebula and began conducting detailed scans. They weren't just threatening him. They were hunting him. "Take us deeper into the nebula," he ordered. "Use the phase drive to hide in the gas clouds." The Silent Current slipped into phase mode and moved deeper into the swirling cosmic dust and gas that made up the Helix Nebula. The dense particles would interfere with most sensors, giving them a place to hide while Bin-Wu figured out what to do next. But the humans had come prepared for this possibility. Their search groups moved methodically through the nebula, using sensor arrays specifically designed to detect quantum disturbances. Phase drives left tiny traces that most races couldn't detect, but human technology had been built to hunt things that tried to hide. "Contact the High Command," Bin-Wu finally ordered. "Tell them we need immediate military support." The message was sent through quantum channels to the Kaleri capital world. But the response that came back shocked everyone on the bridge. This is High Command to Silent Current. You are ordered to release the human prisoners immediately and surrender to their fleet. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage human forces. Binwu stared at the message in disbelief. They want us to surrender? To humans? Hey, one looked up from her communication station. Sir, I'm receiving similar orders from Fleet Command, Planetary Defense, even the Colonial Authority. Everyone is telling us to give up. But why? We have phased technology. We can slip through their attacks like ghosts? His sensor operator turned around with a pale face. Sir, you should see this. I'm detecting quantum signatures throughout Kaleri space. The humans aren't just here, they're everywhere. The main screen changed to show a tactical display of Kaleri territory. Red dots marked human ships, and there were hundreds of them. The entire human fleet had spread out across Kaleri space, moving toward every military base, every shipyard, every important installation. They're not just trying to rescue their people, Hei-One said quietly. They're occupying our entire territory. Binwu felt his blood turn to ice. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was an invasion. The humans had brought enough ships to conquer the entire Kaleri collective, all because he had captured 12 explorers. Messages began flooding in from Kaleri colonies throughout their space. Mining stations reported human ships taking position around them. Military bases found themselves surrounded by human battle groups. Civilian transports were being stopped and searched by human patrol vessels, but the strangest thing was that the humans weren't attacking. They were just taking control. Kaleri ships that tried to resist were disabled with precise weapon strikes that left the crews alive but the vessels helpless. Facilities that refused to cooperate found their power systems mysteriously failing. Until they agreed to human demands. What do they want? Binwu asked himself. The answer came from Admiral So-Young's next message. Citizens of the Kaleri Collective, this is Admiral Kim of the United Earth Fleet. We are not here to conquer your worlds or harm your people. We want only one thing, the safe return of our 12 crew members. When they are released unharmed, we will withdraw immediately. The message was broadcast on every Kaleri communication channel. Civilian frequencies, military networks, even entertainment channels carried the same simple demand on the Kaleri capital world. Panic was spreading through the government. Foreign Minister Teho found himself facing angry crowds outside his office. Citizens demanded to know why their military couldn't protect them from a human fleet. How many ships do the humans have? He asked his military advisors. We estimate about 5,000 combat vessels galaxy-wide, General One-Seek replied. But they've committed nearly 1,000 ships to this operation. That's 20% of their entire navy for 12 people. Why would they risk so much for such a small crew? General One-Seek had been studying human military history since the crisis began. Because they always do this, sir. In their records, there are dozens of similar operations. They once invaded an entire star system to rescue 6 diplomats. They fought a 3-year war because someone attacked one of their colony ships. But the cost, the resources. For humans, the cost doesn't matter. Protecting their people is more important than anything else, including their own lives. Back in the nebula, Captain Binwu was running out of options. The human search groups were getting closer, their sensors penetrating deeper into the gas clouds. His ship could stay hidden for now, but not forever. Sir, his communications officer reported, I'm getting messages from our families on the homeworlds. The humans are allowing normal civilian communications, but they're monitoring everything. Binwu's wife's voice came through the speaker, full of fear and confusion. Jinwu, what's happening? There are human ships everywhere. The children are scared. Please, come home. For the first time since this began, Binwu thought about something other than his own pride. His decisions weren't just affecting him and his crew. They were affecting every Kaleri citizen in the galaxy. In her cell aboard the Silent Current, Commander Sujin could hear the worry in her captors' voices. The Kaleri crew was starting to understand what they had gotten themselves into. You tried to warn them, said the guard outside her cell. It was the first time any of the Kaleri had spoken to her directly. I did, Sujin replied sadly, but they wouldn't listen. Why do your people care so much? It's just 12 lives against billions. Sujin looked at the young Kaleri soldier. He couldn't be much older than her own children. Because if we don't protect each other, who will? If we abandon our people when things get difficult, what kind of people are we? The guard was quiet for a moment, but the cost of not doing it is higher, Sujin said simply. If we let anyone take our people without consequences, then no human anywhere in the galaxy is safe. So we pay the price, whatever it is, to make sure everyone knows that humans protect their own. On the bridge, Binwu was finally beginning to understand what Elder Yuna had tried to warn them about. This wasn't about technology or military strength. This was about something much more powerful and dangerous, a people who would sacrifice everything to protect their family. And now he was trapped in the middle of a nebula, surrounded by 1,000 human ships, all because he thought he was smarter than the warnings of the entire Galactic Council. The hunt was closing in, and there was nowhere left to run. Admiral Kangmin had been a warrior for 30 years. He had fought in border skirmishes, commanded fleets in deep space, and never retreated from a battle. When he heard that humans had invaded Kaleri space, his first instinct was to fight back. With everything he had, the KRS Dominator was the most powerful ship in the Kaleri fleet. 3 kilometers long and armed with the newest phase cannons, it could punch through any known shield technology. Admiral Kangmin was confident that one Kaleri dreadnought could handle a few human ships. Tactical analysis, he ordered as his ship approached the Helix Nebula. Sir, I detect 3 human vessels converging on the Silent Current's position. Light cruiser class, standard human design. Our weapons should penetrate their defenses easily. Admiral Kangmin smiled. Good. Today the humans will learn that the Kaleri are not afraid of their threats. But Captain Binwu was horrified when he saw the dreadnought arrive. Admiral Kangmin, this is Captain Binwu. Please withdraw immediately. I was about to surrender to the human forces. Surrender? Kangmin's voice crackled with anger over the communication channel. The Kaleri do not surrender to inferior species. I'm here to rescue you and show these humans what real military power looks like. Sir, you don't understand. They have over 1,000 ships. This is not a battle we can win. 3 ships against my dreadnought? I like those odds. Binwu felt sick to his stomach. He had finally realized his mistake and was ready to fix it. But now Admiral Kangmin was about to make everything infinitely worse. The human ships detected the Kaleri dreadnought immediately. Captain Dayun of the UES Swift response was the first to make contact. Unknown Kaleri vessel, this is Captain Dayun. You are interfering with a lawful rescue operation. Withdraw immediately or you will be considered hostile. Admiral Kangmin laughed. I am Admiral Kangmin of the Kaleri Defense Force. You are the ones who should withdraw. Leave our space now or face the consequences. Admiral, we have no quarrel. With you, we only want our people back. Captain Binwu was preparing to surrender. Don't escalate this situation. The only thing surrendering here will be your ships after I destroy them. Captain Dayun tried one more time. Admiral, I'm going to patch you through to our fleet commander. Please listen to what she has to say. A new voice came over the channel. Admiral So-Young Kim spoke with the calm authority of someone who had commanded fleets for 20 years. Admiral Kangmin, this is Admiral Kim. I understand you want to protect your people, so do we. But if you fire on my ships, this situation will become much more serious. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Right now, this is a rescue operation. We've been careful not to harm your people or destroy your property, but if you attack us, it becomes a war. And wars have different rules. Admiral Kangmin's pride wouldn't let him back down. 1 ship against 3. Let's see what your human engineering can do against Kaleri phase technology. Admiral, you're not facing 3 ships. You're facing the entire human fleet. Before Kangmin could ask what she meant, his sensor operator shouted a warning. Sir, multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel, dozens of them. The space around the Helix Nebula suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared from every direction, surrounding the Kaleri dreadnought in a sphere of steel and weaponry. Ships that had been patrolling other parts of Kaleri space had converged on this location in perfect coordination. Admiral Kang Min stared at his tactical display in shock. How many ships? I count 147 vessels, sir. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers. They have us completely surrounded. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kang Min felt real fear. But his pride was stronger than his. Sense. All ships, prepare for battle. Today we show the galaxy that the Kaleri will not bow to anyone. Admiral So Young's voice came through the speakers again. You have 1 minute to reconsider. After that, I cannot guarantee your safety. The Kaleri do not need guarantees from humans. Admiral Kang Min gave the order to fire. The Dominator's massive phase cannons charged up and released invisible beams of energy toward the nearest human ships. The weapons should have passed through their shields and torn apart their engines and weapon systems. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships simply weren't there when the weapons arrived. They had moved with impossible precision, dodging attacks that should have been undodgeable. How did they do that? The tactical officer shouted. The answer came in the form of return. Fire. Every human ship in the sphere opened fire at the same time. Not with phase weapons or exotic energy beams, but with simple kinetic projectiles fired at tremendous speeds. The Dominator's phase shields were designed to let energy attacks pass through harmlessly, but they couldn't stop solid matter. Thousands of metal slugs slammed into the dreadnought's hull, tearing through armor plating and destroying weapon systems. Admiral Kang Min felt his ship shudder under the impact. Damage report. Phase cannons offline. Navigation systems damaged. Life support functioning but strained. How is this possible? Our technology is superior. His science officer looked up from her station with a pale face. Sir, the humans weren't trying to penetrate our shields. They were using weapons specifically designed to work against phase technology. What do you mean? They've been studying our capabilities, sir. They know exactly how our defenses work, and they built weapons to counter them. Admiral Kang Min realized with growing horror that the humans had been prepared for this encounter. They had known that Kaleri ships might show up, and they had planned accordingly. Sir, the communications officer called out, Admiral Kim is requesting to speak with you. The human admiral's voice was no longer calm and diplomatic. It was cold and hard. Admiral Kang Min, you have just fired on human naval vessels engaged in a lawful rescue operation. Under human military law that makes you an enemy combatant. We demand the right to withdraw. That right expired when you opened fire? You wanted to see what human military power looks like. You're about to get a demonstration. What happened next became known in galactic history as the 4-Minute War. It wasn't really a war at all. It was a precise surgical strike by professionals. Against amateurs. The human ships moved in perfect coordination. Each one assigned specific targets on the Kaleri dreadnought. They didn't try to destroy the ship entirely. Instead, they systematically disabled every weapon, every engine, every system that could pose a threat. Admiral Kang Min watched helplessly as his pride and joy was reduced to a floating piece of scrap metal. His crew ran from station to station trying to repair systems faster than the humans could destroy them. It was hopeless. Surrender? He finally shouted into his communicator. We surrender. Too late for that, Admiral So Young replied. You made your choice when you fired on us. The attack continued for exactly 4 minutes. When it ended, the Dominator was completely helpless, drifting in space with no power and no weapons. But every member of the crew was alive. This is Admiral Kim to all Kaleri vessels, came the broadcast on all frequencies. You have just witnessed what happens when someone attacks human naval forces. We could have destroyed this ship and killed everyone aboard. We chose not to. But the next ship that fires on us will not be so fortunate. Captain Binwoo watched the destruction of the Dominator with sick fascination. The humans had dismantled the most powerful ship in the Kaleri fleet, like it was a child's toy. Sir, Lieutenant Haywon whispered, what do we do now? Before Binwoo could answer, his communication system activated. Admiral So Young's voice filled the bridge of the silent current. Captain Binwoo, you've been very patient while we dealt with your admiral. Now it's time to finish this. You have 12 of our people. We want them back. Refuse, and what happened to the Dominator will look like a gentle massage compared to what we do to your ship. Binwoo looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. He thought about his wife and children back home. He thought about the billions of Kaleri citizens who were suffering because of his decision to capture 12 humans, most of all. He thought about the look in Commander Sujin's eyes when she had tried to warn him. She had known this would happen. She had tried to save him from his own pride. Admiral Kim, he said quietly, I surrender, unconditionally. Very good, Captain. Prepare to be boarded. And Captain? Yes? The next time someone gives you a warning about human capabilities, I suggest you listen. In her cell, Commander Sujin heard the announcement of surrender and felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that this nightmare was finally ending. Sadness for all the people who had suffered because one man's pride had overruled his common sense. Soon she would be going home to her children. But she would never forget the lesson she had learned in these cells. Sometimes the greatest tragedies come not from evil, but from good people who refuse to believe warnings until it's too late. The rescue was almost over. But the consequences of this day would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Admiral Kangmin had been a warrior for 30 years. He had fought in border skirmishes, commanded fleets in deep space, and never retreated from a battle. When he heard that humans had invaded Kaleri space, his first instinct was to fight back. With everything he had, the KRS Dominator was the most powerful ship in the Kaleri fleet. 3 kilometers long and armed with the newest phase cannons, it could punch through any known shield technology. Admiral Kangmin was confident that one Kaleri dreadnought could handle a few human ships. Tactical analysis, he ordered as his ship approached the Helix Nebula. Sir, I detect 3 human vessels converging on the silent current's position. Light cruiser class, standard human design. Our weapons should penetrate their defenses easily. Admiral Kangmin smiled. Good. Today the humans will learn that the Kaleri are not afraid of their threats. But Captain Binwoo was horrified when he saw the dreadnought arrive. Admiral Kangmin, this is Captain Binwoo. Please withdraw immediately. I was about to surrender to the human forces. Surrender? Kangmin's voice crackled with anger over the communication channel. The Kaleri do not surrender to inferior species. I'm here to rescue you and show these humans what real military power looks like. Sir, you don't understand. They have over 1,000 ships. This is not a battle we can win. 3 ships against my dreadnought? I like those odds. Binwoo felt sick to his stomach. He had finally realized his mistake and was ready to fix it. But now Admiral Kangmin was about to make everything infinitely worse. The human ships detected the Kaleri dreadnought immediately. Captain Dayun of the UES Swift Response was the first to make contact. Unknown Kaleri vessel, this is Captain Dayun. You are interfering with a lawful rescue operation. Withdraw immediately or you will be considered hostile. Admiral Kangmin laughed. I am Admiral Kangmin of the Kaleri Defense Force. You are the ones who should withdraw. Leave our space now or face the consequences. Admiral, we have no quarrel. With you, we only want our people back. Captain Binwoo was preparing to surrender. Don't escalate this situation. The only thing surrendering here will be your ships after I destroy them. Captain Dayun tried one more time. Admiral, I'm going to patch you through to our fleet commander. Please listen to what she has to say. A new voice came over the channel. Admiral So Young Kim spoke with the calm authority of someone who had commanded fleets for 20 years. Admiral Kangmin, this is Admiral Kim. I understand you want to protect your people, so do we. But if you fire on my ships, this situation will become much more serious. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Right now, this is a rescue operation. We've been careful not to harm your people or destroy your property, but if you attack us, it becomes a war. And wars have different rules. Admiral Kongmin's pride wouldn't let him back down. 1 ship against 3. Let's see what your human engineering can do against Kaleri phase technology. Admiral, you're not facing 3 ships. You're facing the entire human fleet. Before Kongmin could ask what she meant, his sensor operator shouted a warning. Sir, multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel, dozens of them. The space around the Helix Nebula suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared from every direction, surrounding the Kaleri dreadnought in a sphere of steel and weaponry. Ships that had been patrolling other parts of Kaleri space had converged on this location in perfect coordination. Admiral, Kongmin stared at his tactical display in shock. How many ships? I count 147 vessels, sir. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers. They have us completely surrounded. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kongmin felt real fear. But his pride was stronger than his. Sense. All ships, prepare for battle. Today we show the galaxy that the Kaleri will not bow to anyone. Admiral So Young's voice came through the speakers again. You have 1 minute to reconsider. After that, I cannot guarantee your safety. The Kaleri do not need guarantees from humans. Admiral Kongmin gave the order to fire. The Dominator's massive phase cannons charged up and released invisible beams of energy toward the nearest human ships. The weapons should have passed through their shields and torn apart their engines and weapon systems. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships simply weren't there when the weapons arrived. They had moved with impossible precision, dodging attacks that should have been undodgeable. How did they do that? The tactical officer shouted. The answer came in the form of return. Fire. Every human ship in the sphere opened fire at the same time. Not with phase weapons or exotic energy beams, but with simple kinetic projectiles fired at tremendous speeds. The Dominator's phase shields were designed to let energy attacks pass through harmlessly, but they couldn't stop solid matter. Thousands of metal slugs slammed into the dreadnought's hull, tearing through armor plating and destroying weapon systems. Admiral Kongmin felt his ship shudder under the impact. Damage report. Phase cannons offline. Navigation systems damaged. Life support functioning but strained. How is this possible? Our technology is superior. His science officer looked up from her station with a pale face. Sir, the humans weren't trying to penetrate our shields. They were using weapons specifically designed to work against phase technology. What do you mean? They've been studying our capabilities, sir. They know exactly how our defenses work, and they built weapons to counter them. Admiral Kongmin realized with growing horror that the humans had been prepared for this encounter. They had known that Kaleri ships might show up, and they had planned accordingly. Sir, the communications officer called out, Admiral Kim is requesting to speak with you. The human admiral's voice was no longer calm and diplomatic. It was cold and hard. Admiral Kongmin, you have just fired on human naval vessels engaged in a lawful rescue operation. Under human military law that makes you an enemy combatant. We demand the right to withdraw. That right expired when you opened fire? You wanted to see what human military power looks like. You're about to get a demonstration. What happened next became known in galactic history as the 4-Minute War. It wasn't really a war at all. It was a precise surgical strike by professionals. Against amateurs. The human ships moved in perfect coordination. Each one assigned specific targets on the Kaleri dreadnought. They didn't try to destroy the ship entirely. Instead, they systematically disabled every weapon, every engine, every system that could pose a threat. Admiral Kongmin watched helplessly as his pride and joy was reduced to a floating piece of scrap metal. His crew ran from station to station trying to repair systems faster than the humans could destroy them. It was hopeless. Surrender, he finally shouted into his communicator. We surrender. Too late for that, Admiral So Young replied. You made your choice when you fired on us. The attack continued for exactly 4 minutes. When it ended, the Dominator was completely helpless, drifting in space with no power and no weapons. But every member of the crew was alive. This is Admiral Kim to all Kalari vessels, came the broadcast on all frequencies. You have just witnessed what happens when someone attacks human naval forces. We could have destroyed this ship and killed everyone aboard. We chose not to. But the next ship that fires on us will not be so fortunate. Captain Binwoo watched the destruction of the Dominator with sick fascination. The humans had dismantled the most powerful ship in the Kalari fleet, like it was a child's toy. Sir, Lieutenant Haewon whispered, what do we do now? Before Binwoo could answer, his communications system activated. Admiral So-young's voice filled the bridge of the silent current. Captain Binwoo, you've been very patient while we dealt with your admiral. Now it's time to finish this. You have 12 of our people. We want them back. Refuse, and what happened to the Dominator will look like a gentle massage compared to what we do to your ship. Binwoo looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. He thought about his wife and children back home. He thought about the billions of Kalari citizens who were suffering because of his decision to capture 12 humans, most of all. He thought about the look in Commander Soo-jin's eyes when she had tried to warn him. She had known this would happen. She had tried to save him from his own pride. Admiral Kim, he said quietly, I surrender, unconditionally. Very good, Captain. Prepare to be boarded. And Captain? Yes? The next time someone gives you a warning about human capabilities, I suggest you listen. In her cell, Commander Soo-jin heard the announcement of surrender and felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that this nightmare was finally ending. Sadness for all the people who had suffered because one man's pride had overruled his common sense. Soon she would be going home to her children. But she would never forget the lesson she had learned in these cells. Sometimes the greatest tragedies come not from evil, but from good people who refuse to believe warnings until it's too late. The rescue was almost over. But the consequences of this day would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The human boarding party arrived on the silent current within an hour of Captain Binwoo's surrender. They moved through the ship with careful efficiency, their weapons ready but not threatening. These were professionals doing a job, not conquerors. Seeking revenge. Commander Soo-jin was the first to be brought to the shuttle bay. When she saw the human Marines waiting there, she felt a wave of relief so strong it nearly brought her to her knees. The lead Marine, a young sergeant named Jiho, saluted her respectfully. Ma'am, we're here to take you home. My crew? All 11 accounted for, ma'am. Everyone's alive and unharmed. Soo-jin closed her eyes and said a silent prayer of thanks. When she opened them again, she saw Captain Binwoo standing nearby under guard. His face was pale and his hands were shaking slightly. Commander, he said quietly, I want you to know that I never intended for things to go this far. Soo-jin looked at him for a long moment. I know, Captain. But intentions don't matter much when people are suffering because of your choices. What will happen to my crew, to my people? That's not up to me, Soo-jin replied. But knowing my people, they'll be fair. They always are. The transfer took place quickly. The 12 human crew members were brought aboard the human shuttle, while the Kalari crew of the Silent Current was taken into custody. Within 2 hours, Commander Soo-jin was standing on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, reporting to Admiral So-young. Kim, status report, Commander, the Admiral said. All crew members present and accounted for, ma'am. The Kalari treated us reasonably well during captivity. No serious injuries or mistreatment. Admiral So-young nodded. Good. That will be taken into consideration during the aftermath proceedings. Admiral, what's the status of Kalari space? Complete occupation. Every military installation, every major colony, every trade route is under our control. The Kalari government has formally requested negotiations for the withdrawal of our forces. Soo-jin felt a pang of guilt. 12 people had been rescued, but the price had been the effective conquest of an entire star nation. How many casualties? None on our side, minimal on theirs. The Kalari learned quickly that resistance was futile. Most of their forces surrendered. Without a fight, once word spread about what happened to the Dominator. The aftermath negotiations took place on Harmony Point, the same neutral station where Elder Yuna had given her warnings 3 months earlier. The Galactic Council chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of races, all eager to witness the resolution of what was already being called the 72-hour war. Ambassador Tamin sat in the Kaleri section, his face gray with exhaustion and shame. Foreign Minister Teho had been recalled in disgrace. Leaving Tamin to negotiate the terms of human withdrawal, Admiral So Young represented humanity, her dress uniform immaculate and her bearing dignified. She carried herself like someone who had accomplished a difficult but necessary task. Elder Yuna presided over the proceedings from the center of the chamber. Her ancient eyes held no satisfaction at being proven right, only sadness for the suffering that could have been avoided. We are here to formally resolve the conflict between the United Earth Government and the Kaleri Collective, Yuna announced. Admiral Kim, what are humanity's terms for withdrawal? Admiral So Young stood and spoke clearly so her words could be heard throughout the chamber. The terms are simple. First, Captain Binwu and his crew will face trial under Galactic Council, jurisdiction for piracy and unlawful imprisonment. Second, the Kaleri Collective will pay reparations to cover the cost of this operation. Third, the Kaleri military will be reduced to defensive forces only for a period of 10 years. Ambassador Tamin stood slowly. Admiral, these terms will essentially end the Kaleri Collective as a starfaring civilization. Our military protects our trade routes and mining operations. Without it, we cannot maintain our economy. Perhaps you should have considered that before attacking our ship, Admiral So Young replied without emotion. But the cost is so disproportionate. 12 people against the future of 12 billion. Admiral So Young's expression didn't change. Ambassador, your captain didn't just capture 12 people. He attacked the principle that keeps peace in this galaxy. If any race can take human citizens without consequences, then no human anywhere is safe. Elder Yuna spoke up from the center. Ambassador Tamin, you were present when I gave the warnings about human vessels. You heard the consequences explained clearly. What did you think would happen? Tamin's voice broke slightly. We thought the stories were exaggerated. We thought our technology could protect us. Technology is nothing compared to determination, Admiral So Young said. You had ships that could phase through matter. We had something more powerful, the absolute certainty that we would bring our people home, no matter what it cost. The negotiations continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Kaleri had no leverage and no options. They accepted the human terms completely. As the formal agreements were signed, Elder Yuna made an announcement that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Let the record show that this day marks the end of the Kaleri human incident. But more importantly, let it mark the beginning of a new understanding. The rule about human vessels is not a suggestion or a courtesy. It is a law of nature, as immutable as gravity or thermodynamics. She pulled out a small crystal data storage device and placed it on the podium. This contains complete records of everything that happened. Every battle, every negotiation, every consequence. It will be made available to all council members and their governments. The crystal began glowing and images appeared in the air above the chamber. Ships being disabled with surgical precision. The destruction of the Dominator in 4 minutes. Kaleri colonies surrendering without resistance. The systematic occupation of an entire star nation. Study these records carefully, Yuna continued. Learn from the Kaleri's mistake, because this was humanity being merciful. They wanted their people back, and when they got them, they stopped. But if someone ever threatens Earth itself or attacks human civilians or commits genocide against human colonies. She let the words hang in the air for a moment. Then you will see what humans are truly capable of when they decide that mercy is no longer an option. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the most warlike races present felt a chill at the implications. Admiral So Young stood to make her final statement. We take no pleasure in what happened here. We regret the suffering caused to innocent Kaleri citizens. But we will not apologize for protecting our people. Any race that harms humans will face the same response, regardless of their technology or their numbers. She paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of worlds. We are not conquerors or bullies. We trade fairly, share our knowledge freely, and ask for very little in return. All we want is for our people to be safe as they explore the galaxy. The price for ensuring that safety is higher than most races are willing to pay. But it is a price we will always pay without hesitation. 3 months later, Commander Su-Jin was back on Earth, playing in her garden with her 2 children. The rescue mission had made her famous throughout human space, but she tried not to think about it too much. She was just grateful to be home. Her husband brought her a cup of tea and sat down beside her on the garden bench. The news reports say the Kaleri Collective is struggling to adapt to the new restrictions. They'll adapt, Su-Jin said quietly. People always do. And maybe their children will remember this lesson better than their parents did. Do you think it was worth it? All that destruction and suffering for 12 people? Su-Jin watched her daughter chase butterflies among the flowers. Ask me again in 20 years. If no other race has been foolish enough to capture human civilians, then yes, it was worth it. If the galaxy remembers this lesson, then billions of future humans will travel safely among the stars. Back on Harmony Point, Elder Yuna filed her final report on the incident. At the bottom, she added a personal note that would become part of galactic law, universal notice. Interference with human vessels of any kind will result in immediate and overwhelming retaliation. The humans have demonstrated that they possess both the capability and the will to enforce this principle at any cost. No exceptions will be made. No excuses will be accepted. This is not a threat or a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. The report was distributed to every government, every military command, every space captain in the galaxy. The message was simple and clear. Humans protect their own, always, without exception, at any cost. The galaxy learned its lesson well. In the decades that followed, no race ever again made the mistake of interfering with a human vessel. The warning became so well known that it was taught to children in schools across thousands of worlds. One rule: don't interfere with Earth's fleet. They knew the cost. The Kaleri paid it, and everyone else learned from their example. The stars became a safer place for humans to explore, bought with the price of one civilization's pride and another's determination to never leave anyone behind. Somewhere in the galaxy, new ships launched every day carrying human explorers, traders, and diplomats to distant worlds. They traveled knowing that if anything happened to them, if anyone tried to harm them, the entire might of Earth's fleet would come to Bryn.